Hey everybody, I'm back with another little breakdown video. The previous video was about a mistake that a team made, and the video before that was about a cool defensive strategy that another team had. And this video is going to have a little bit of both. So this video is going to have kind of two parts to it. First, we're going to highlight what I think is a really underappreciated little rotation that GC Busan made on defense here on Hollywood. And the second one is a play that Birdring kind of messes up, and it allows Profit to just kind of get into the back line of Kongdoo and just wreak havoc. So we'll talk about that play more later when we get there. But for now, we're looking at Kongdoo attacking point A on Hollywood. This was the second map of the series from earlier this morning. In case you somehow missed it, actually I won't spoil it for you. It's a good series, go watch it though. But Kongdoo is able to take this point A, pretty quickly, and the casters on air were talking a lot about how GC Busan really failed their first defense, on point A, and I thought that their defense was actually very good. They did make a pretty critical mistake, but it wasn't like it wasn't a team-wide mistake. It was a mistake just from their supports. But anyways, we'll play through the defense real quick because it's not that long. But we see Kongdoo is playing pretty heavy dive comp. They have they have Doomfist, they have, double dive tanks as is kind of normal, and Birdring goes down, and they actually have to back up initially. They lose Birdring, sure they get Huriel's Diva Mech, but they're backing up because their tanks are low as well, and they just say, okay, we can recuperate our losses. Unfortunately, Waka Waka goes down, and this is where the fight kind of goes poorly. Rascal comes in and kills both supports of GC Busan, and from that point, once you have no healing for your tanks and your DPS, it's pretty hard to win the fight. So it's a really good dive there. Rascal gets in on them, and Void was protecting him, so we see despite the fact that he was flashbanged, he doesn't get killed, and they commit the nano boost. Maybe a small error because they didn't need it, but it's fine in the end, and they take the point very quickly, right? That was a 1 minute attack overall. So now we're gonna go back, and because I believe that the rotation from GC Busan here kind of went a little bit under the radar. So to start out, we see this is pretty standard, right? You have your McCree, your Lucio, and your Zenyatta all hanging out on the upper floor here of Cafe, right? And that's pretty normal to do. They're relatively safe here, and if they get dove, they can fall back to the lower area where they have a health pack, or they can run out of Cafe. They can jump forward, gives them a good view of the point. There are many reasons why this position is a very standard position to hold. And also having a McCree instead of a Soldier 76 gives you a flashbang, so you're a little bit harder to dive if, say, a Genji from Rascal, which he's hovering now, he doesn't end up playing it. But if there was a Genji, which you can potentially guess Rascal will play, the McCree is a pretty solid pick. Obviously, there's a little bit less healing, but, it's okay. So, GC Busan's in standard positions, though, and Kongdoo ends up running this Doomfist. So, when you think about what the Doomfist does over the Genji, is that Genji can kill people through defense matrix. He can. His dash is pretty good at, getting through defense matrix, as well as, he oftentimes kills people with melee attacks. But specifically, Doomfist, all of his abilities can get through defense matrix, and as well as Winston, the damage from his jump and his Tesla cannon, his little shocking, gets through defense matrix. So these two players in particular want to dive up to Cafe. They want to dive up to this level here, and if the members of GC Busan who are holding Cafe fall to the downstairs area kind of in here, they're okay with that, because even if defense matrix is in their face, they're still going to be able to kill players. And especially Rascal, it's very easy to hit your rocket punch in such confined quarters, and there's going to be a wall there, so you're going to get kills. So GC Busan recognized this, and actually I need to go back a bit to highlight, or actually no, I can't. Okay, so we see that as they come out, right, GC Busan, we still see the players are here. They're still up in Cafe, and what happens is they see this Doomfist, and they actually play this very intelligently. So we still see there's some shots coming from Lucio and Zenyatta here, but suddenly all of the fire from here has stopped. Unfortunately, we don't have the best camera angle, so we can't see exactly what happens. But they leave the upper part of Cafe, and the reason why is because we see Rascal right here on the Doomfist is coming up to this high ground, where he can then jump across and land on them. And of course, Void and Fisher, the Winston and Diva here, are also in position to jump up onto this high ground. And in which case, GC Busan, you know, the people in Cafe are very vulnerable, so they don't want to be there. So what ends up happening though is Kongdoo isn't quite aware of the fact that they are not there. So we see Fisher right here actually jumps into Cafe, and Huyal chases him, right? Which is, you know, whatever, it's fine. But he's very low health, so he shouldn't actually be going this direction, but it's part of the gambit, right? And it also makes Void follow him. Void follows him. But what has happened, and the picture's a little kind of fuzzy right now, so it's difficult to see. Maybe I can get a little bit better. So we can see now, though, that Tracer, Lucio, McCree, and Zenyatta's in the back right there as well, Zen, have all rotated around Cafe, behind the door, through the little hallway here, and they are now at this door. But what has happened is both tanks from Kongdoo assumed that GC Busan was still in Cafe, maybe on the lower part of Cafe, right? But they could no longer see them, so they assume they're hiding in the lower part of Cafe. So they still jump to Cafe. But meanwhile, all the damage, all four of these players are the primary damage. Maybe not, you know, closer, of course, but Hagopune, you know, and Zen is pretty good damage. You know, obviously the Tracer and McCree are pretty significant damage. They are now in the flank, and they are going to be able to fire at the members of Kongdoo, or I was about to say Kongdoo Panthera, Cloud9 Kongdoo, sorry. So they actually get a couple kills, right? Void's up there, and players are vulnerable, and it backs them off. And where this goes wrong, after that, what I think is a very clever rotation, and follow-up one kill, is we see Rascal comes in, and it's hard to see right now, but right now both the Lucio and the Zen are in this room right here. They're in security, and Rascal sees that. I can barely make out his silhouette here, and he comes in, and in that confined quarters, Doomfist just tears them apart. And once you lose both supports, then it is very difficult to win from there, and they end up losing the fight overall. And they do end up losing the point in about a minute, so which is not ideal, but I think that their initial rotation was really clever, and I think it went under the radar because of how quickly it got turned back around on them, but I did want to point that out. So now I'm going to skip ahead to here. And so this was a play that Birdring makes a mistake, like I mentioned earlier. And it's unfortunate that, and Birdring continued to do this throughout the whole series. While I was watching this on stream today, I talked about this a lot on stream because it kept happening. And the coaches of Kongdoo never really seemed to point this out to them because Birdring never actually changed what he was doing. But when a player like Prophet is going off like he was on Tracer, you need to do your best to mark him. You can't realistically ask Void on the Diva to follow Tracer around because Tracer is so much more mobile than the Diva, right? And sure, Defense Matrix is really powerful, but again, the Tracer can just come from unexpected angles. So realistically, your best choice is to have Birdring on Tracer follow the enemy Tracer, and all he has to do is just know where he is and, you know, hit him with a few bullets, right? And then when Prophet has been chunked, maybe, you know, even if it's just 50 health, he's kind of incentivized to back off and heal up, and it can alleviate some of the pressure that's onto the backline of Kongdoo. And that pressure was just insane this whole series. Rascal, Bados, and Waka Waka, Prophet was constantly tearing them apart, and Birdring wasn't really doing anything about it. So this play, we will once again play through once. So Birdring comes down, right? He's blinking around, and he sees Prophet there, and Birdring ends up actually coming forward and trying to hit the tanks, and he backs off. And then Prophet is now suddenly in the back line and is completely unseen, and that pulse bomb already ends the fight. Prophet ends up chasing and killing Birdring here, but realistically, the double kill on the pulse bomb on Waka Waka and Rascal is enough. That fight is already over. GC Busan has already won. So we have to go back and look, and we're going to look and see kind of what happened here. Birdring had the chance to contest Prophet here, so he comes forward. I want to get it so I can get it all in frame. Alright, good enough. So what has happened here? Birdring is a little bit low, right? He's at 118 out of 150. And against Tracer can very quickly do 100 health, or 100 damage, sorry. And he sees Prophet right here, so he knows that Prophet is on this flank, right? The rest of his team is over that way. So he knows that Profit's kind of trying to come around the side because this tunnel gives Profit cover to do that with. So what Birdring can do here, and what he does, is he can take this health pack. And taking this health pack here is a really big deal because he's taken some damage, taken, and he still has recall up. And what this means is that he can pick up this health pack and still be at full health while Profit hasn't taken a ton of damage, but he's taken some damage, right? When Profit has taken a little bit of damage. So Birdring can win this duel or at least force him back. Because if Profit dashes forward and goes for more damage, Birdring still has recall available to him, and Profit only has recall available. So basically, Birdring has 2 heals between the health pack here and his recall, while Profit only has 1. So Birdring has a very good chance, maybe not necessarily of killing Profit, because Profit can run away, of course, but and as we see here, Birdring only has 1 blink available, and it just came back. So he might not be able to chase Profit, but he's at least going to be able to dissuade Profit from going on to the flank here. But what happens, as we play it out again, is Birdring just leaves. He goes back. He sees Profit walk a little bit back. And I don't know, I guess he assumed that Profit was leaving, but he doesn't. So Hureg kind of plays a little aggressive here, right? And the tank's coming back him up. We can see the defense matrix, the little blue lines here from Huyao protecting him. And Birdring actually blinks forward, and he actually has Pulse Bomb here. So if Birdring had blinked forward and dropped Pulse Bomb here, I actually would have been okay with this play, because he would have been able to kill Jester, who is pretty low. And these particles here are not actually defense matrix. It is Huyao firing his left click. That's where the damage on Birdring has come from. So there wasn't even a defense matrix. So if Birdring had dropped that Pulse Bomb, sure, that's a good play. But instead what he does is he just blinks forward, goes for some shots, and now comes out. He blinks this direction, and he is right here, actually. And now he is with the rest of his team. We can see, here's like Lucio, I think that's Winston. But, the members of Kongdoo are in Cafe right now, actually. But what he is doing this whole time is he is no longer watching that flank. And we see Profit is starting to advance. And this is something Profit did the whole series, just time and time and time again. He did it on basically every single map and almost every single team fight. He was somehow behind Kongdoo. And while it's very good for Profit, I'm not taking away from Profit's performance. His performance was absolutely incredible. His pulse bombs were just ridiculous. The number of first kills he got was insane. But nobody was stopping him either. And this is why. Because nobody was marking him. Birdring was not following Profit. And as we see here, Profit slowly sneaks around. And this was good from the observers, by the way, to realize what Profit was doing. And he sneaks up, doing that little crouch there because it makes him quieter. And look at this. Nobody is looking at him. Rascal here on the Soldier is looking forward. Void on the Diva is looking forward. Nobody's watching for Profit because they assume that he is with the rest of his team. Because last they saw, he was walking away, but they don't know that. And, of course, making assumptions, you know how the saying goes. And in this case, the Unseen Tracer truly is the deadliest, and he comes in, drops the easiest pulse bomb of his life, and because they're so clustered, it's a double kill. And this is one instance. It is just one team fight on one map. But if you go back and watch this series, this is something that happens just over and over and over and over again. Profit gets into the backline for free. He doesn't actually have to fight his way back there. He doesn't necessarily have to win these duels against Birdring to get into the backline. He simply walks there. And that is such a massive advantage that Kongdoo gave to GC Busan in almost every fight. Hureg also played amazingly. I'm not taking away from that. GC Busan as a team, as I highlighted at the start of this video, I think was also playing very well around the maps and stuff. But that advantage that Kongdoo gave away to Profit was so big. And I think the easiest adaptation that either I guess now they're the RX Foxes, or Runaway can do when they face GC Busan in the finals is have their Tracer player follow Profit. That's an easy change to make, but it's just one that has to be made.